Ed, I'm so glad you're here to talk about Fatima. That's one of my favorite topics, and I know I've had lunch with you. That's been one of your favorite topics, so we're two peas in a pod. Now, Ed, this whole situation in the Ukraine, you've written articles on it. I want to refer people to read the entire articles. We won't get to it all today, but you know well that the consecration of Immaculate Heart of Mary with Russia was asked by Our Lady very clearly. And I'd like you to, as a historian, give us a little background on that question about whether it was made, and give us the facts, and then let us decide whether, what we think about it. But I think you've laid out in this article pretty clear statements that I think are clearly showing that it needs to be done. Your thoughts?
Thank you, Terry. Yes, Timothy Flanders, the editor at 1 Peter 5, has actually published 2 articles of mine last week. The first one is called Russian Roulette, how Western mistakes and missteps in the Ukraine are coming home to Rus, because Rus is the original people of Russia.
Right.
People might not know this. Ukrainians and Russians were originally one people.
Yep.
My second article is Ukraine mentioned in the third secret?
Right.
And in both of these articles, I refer to the consecration of Russia, particularly in the second article. So in answer to your question, make a long story short,
yes,
Our Lady of Fatima appeared to Sister Lucia in June of 1929. And she said, the moment has come in which God asks the Holy Father and all the bishops to consecrate Russia to my Immaculate Heart. And of course, she told the children in 1917, July 13th, 1917, in the second secret, that if my requests are heeded, obeyed, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. Now, the kids, they were just, ignorant peasant children. They didn't know what Russia was. They thought Russia was a very naughty woman, kind of like Hillary Clinton. But if my requests are heeded, obeyed, Russia will be converted and there will be peace. If not, Russia will spread her errors throughout the world, causing wars and persecutions of the church. The Holy Father will have much to suffer, and various nations will be annihilated. Well, what have we seen over the last almost 100 years now? Russia has spread her errors throughout the world.
That's right.
From China to Nicaragua, Venezuela, Cuba, North Korea. She's caused wars and persecutions of the church. So obviously, the consecration was not done, because if the consecration had been done, we wouldn't have all these wars and persecutions that have gone on. Now, people will say, and I love the people at EWTN, and I love the people at the Blue Army.
Yeah.
I think you and I were both at the funeral for John Hafford.
Of course.
Back, was that 2004? And, but I'm with Father Gruner. I am a spiritual disciple of Father Gruner. And for more than 33 years now, I have been studying this issue about the consecration of Russia and the place of Russia in the world.
Yes.
And now I have a PhD behind my name as well, which I didn't have 33 years ago, but I got that back in 2004. But anyway, long story short, when John Paul II made an act of consecration, or attempted an act of consecration, March 25th, 1984, there was a witness to this.
That's
and
right.
That witness, and I bring him up in my article, was the chief exorcist of Rome, Father Gabriel Amorth.
Yep.
And let me quote him exactly. I'll pull up the article here.
Please
but
do.
He says, Father Gabriel Amorth says that I was a witness.
Yep.
And I was just a few feet away from him.
Yep.
And he said,
and him is referring to the Holy Father. Go ahead.
Referring to Pope St. John Paul the Great.
Yep.
Right. And he said to, here we go. This is his testimony. In 1984, the Pope quite timidly attempted to consecrate Russia in St. Peter's Square. I was there just a few feet away from him because I was the organizer of the event. He attempted the consecration, but all around him were some politicians who told him, you can't name Russia, you can't. And he asked again, can I name it? And they said, no, no, no.
Wow.
Now, in my article, I
Yes.
compare this, for those of you that have seen the Peter Jackson movie, The Lord of the Rings, The Return of the King, or if you've read the books by Catholic author, J.R.R. Tolkien, you may recall something, or maybe people don't know this. It was on the same date, March 25th, in the Third Age of Middle Earth, that Frodo, the Hobbit, went to Mount Doom to destroy the One Ring that was the only way to conquer evil from happening. And at the last minute, Frodo does not destroy the ring the way he's supposed to. Now, I probably most people have seen the film or read the books. I wouldn't be spoiling anything if I told you what happened next. But something similar happened on March 25th in our age, 1985, when the Pope did not name Russia. And this is important because Our Lady specifically said you have to name Russia. Now, what he did was he said he consecrated the world. And when he had finished consecrating the world to Mary's Immaculate Heart, he added this phrase. He departed from his prepared text. And this is what he said. He said, speaking to Our Lady, enlighten especially those who are still awaiting your consecration and confiding. Now, wait a minute. He just consecrated the whole world to Mary's Immaculate Heart. Who could possibly still be awaiting her consecration and entrustment? The Martians?
I don't think so.
No, it's a veiled reference to Russia. So even the Holy Father, St. John Paul II, admitted that in the concrete circumstances, he couldn't consecrate Russia because of the politicians, the globalists.
Ed, let me be the devil's advocate for here. There's some who say Sister Lucia herself said that the consecration was done. What's your response to that?
The people who say that,
yes.
And I'm glad you brought that up.
No, I know you are.
Yeah.
I'm not putting you on the hot seat. You have an answer to it. I want to hear it.
The people who bring that up are referring to letters that began to be circulated starting in the fall of 1989.
Yes.
Almost 33 years ago. And then into the early 90s.
Right.
Now, Sister Lucia's own sister, her blood relative, says she does not know how to type. She does not know how to use a computer. So these first computer-generated letters claiming to be from her are not possibly from her. Secondly, if she had said that, she would be contradicting everything she had said for the previous 60 years. Now, in October of 1942, Pope Pius XII consecrated the world to Mary's Immaculate Heart. So why didn't that accomplish what Mary wanted accomplished, since John Paul II did the same thing 43 years later?
Right.
Why didn't it work the first time? In fact, there's a bright guy, a good Catholic guy, I disagree with him, Dr. Robert Sungenis.
I know him well, sure.
Who claims, yes, Pius XII's 1942 consecration satisfied heaven.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we had a debate on Meaning of Catholic about that. Folks can go to Meaning of Catholic on the YouTube and watch our debate. But, and thirdly, Sister Lucia was quoted as saying, Mikhail Gorbachev, when he met with Pope John Paul II, got down on his knees and begged forgiveness.
Wow. And
John Paul's spokesperson, Joaquin Navarro Valls, had to come out and say, that did not happen. That is not what happened. So anything from purportedly from Sister Lucia after 1989 is totally not reliable.
Well, you answered the question, Ed, and there's a lot of controversy about that. But let me just ask you to, and think in your article you covered this, but just for the sake of time, the fruit of the consecration. Can you demonstrate where that is, please?
So, I'll do it this way. In
Yeah.
1942, when Pius XII consecrated the world
Yes.
instead of Russia,
Mm-hmm.
it did not lead to the conversion of Russia, but it did lead the next day to the first Allied victory in World War II,
Turning
the
point of
Battle
the
of
war. Yep.
El Alamein.
That's right.
And the next month, November,
Exactly.
was the beginning of the Russian victory at Stalingrad
Yep.
over the Nazis. So there is fruit that
Absolutely.
comes from just consecrating the world instead of consecrating Russia. So my belief is that John Paul II's consecration of the world in 1984 did bear fruit.
Look what happened in the late part of that decade. Yes.
In fact, today, if I'm not mistaken, March 14th is the 37th anniversary of Gorbachev coming to power.
Wow.
I still remember his portrait on the Time magazine that came out that month.
Yeah.
And Gorbachev did something called perestroika.
That's right.
He did something called glasnost.
Mm-hmm.
And what that led to, it led to Russians being able to express their mind without being shot by the KGB. And
Basically.
in 1991, it led to the end of the Soviet Union altogether. And Ukraine and other republics became independent countries. And then to talk more about the fruit of John Paul's consecration,
Yes.
over the last 25 years, Putin and the government in Russia have created over 200,000 Orthodox churches. This is a country that was godless.
Yep.
This is a country where they shot and killed nuns and priests and bishops and starved people, millions of people to death, and blew up churches and turned churches into stables and warehouses and museums of atheism.
Yep.
So there has been tremendous fruit, and I would not want to poo-poo
No, you're
what John
acknowledging
Paul
it.
did.
Sure.
But here we have people suffering and dying in war, and all of this could have been avoided if Russia had been consecrated to Mary's Immaculate Heart as heaven requested.
Ed, I really want you to tell me what you think next time. Oh, this is good. Ed, and this is like I said at the beginning of the show, I want people to see the facts. You know, we're not saying that there was no fruit that took place. Of course there was fruit from the consecration, but Our Lady was very specific about naming Russia.